On this next episode of Plastic Surgery Uncensored, we're going to go fillers. And fillers are, sort of the gateway. It's where you start. But is it a good place to start? Is it what you need? You're going to find out on the next episode of Plastic Surgery Uncensored with board-certified plastic surgeon Dr. Roddy Raban and me, Monique Marvez, who needs fillers, really, right now. I do. Listen. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Plastic Surgery Uncensored with board-certified plastic surgeon Dr. Roddy Raban. I'm Monique Marvez, the co-hostess, I like to call myself. But actually, I want to talk fillers. Fillers.
Let's do it.
Well, I think fillers are, isn't that kind of where people get started, Dr. Raban? Isn't that sort of the entrance into the world?
You refer to it as a gateway. They talk, actually, Botox is really the truest gateway because it's what makes something a gateway? What makes something a desirable procedure? It's easy to do, cost effective, low risk, high reward, minimal downtime. So Botox is by far the best, but filler is right a second. It's a close second. And the reason we want to have the segment on is because I think we were talking about we've spoken about fillers before, but I don't think we've had a really in-depth discussion about fillers. And I don't know who I was speaking with. It may have been Maria, our producer, and we were talking about the different places that you can get filler. And I think her head just almost blew off because I said oh, you can get it in the nipples. And she was like, what?
I was a little blown away by...
Yeah, but not as much. I was, you weren't too...
No. She was like, but with me, it's like anything that needs plumping.
Yeah. So what we want to do is we want to talk about different types of fillers, where you can inject them, what you need to worry about in terms of serious and severe complications. So let's start out with just defining fillers, okay?
Okay.
So what is a filler? Obviously, as the name describes, it volumizes or fills or plumpens an area that's hollow or deficient. So,
or flat or sad or saggy or old looking or catches shadows in pictures or makes you want to cry at weddings.
Yeah, you have those are all good descriptions of areas. But like, for example, you don't fill fine wrinkles for the most part, right?
Okay.
There are some fillers that people are trying to push as they fill fine wrinkles, but you fill more static troughs. So the hollows under your eyes, the hollow in your cheek, and things of that nature.
How about those hatchet marks, those karate hatchet marks you get?
So those are the hollows under your cheeks that we're referring to. So that's what you want to hollow. That's what you want to fill. As opposed to Botox, it actually paralyzes muscle. When it paralyzes muscle, it then stops the wrinkles that the muscles create. So that's how Botox works. So
that I knew. Botulism.
Right. Botulinum toxin A derivative. So fillers. So there are let's talk about the different types of fillers.
Okay.
There are absorbable and non-absorbable. Okay. So non-absorbable would be permanent and absorbable will be like they go away after a certain period of time.
Are they really permanent? Like permanent?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and we'll talk about those. And automatically you're like, oh, that sounds great. Not so.
It kind of does.
No. So in the let's go to in the permanent category, it would be a filler that you injected that your body could not process and would never go away. The most popular of such fillers is silicone that was and still is injected. So at first you think like, well,
is that legal? So you can inject silicone right into somebody?
No. But it is being injected. It was injected for years. I do a ton of revisions as a result of it. And this is the issue. At first, you're like, oh, that's great. I inject something in. I don't have to keep going in. This is amazing. But the reality is, what aspect of your body ever stays the same? Nothing. So the idea that you would put something in that's permanent that never changes with your face is a bad idea.
That explains those lumps on those old ladies. Okay.
Second thing is that your body sees anything foreign, your breast implant, your pacemaker, your prosthetic knee, and your liquid silicone as foreign. And what it does is it creates scar tissue around it because it's like, whoa, this is not normal. The thing is when you have a breast implant, it's one big blob and your body creates one big scar tissue around it. When you inject a bunch of liquid silicone, you're making thousands of little scar tissues around them. And so what happens is that filler changes over time because your body reacts to it and it gets bigger and lumpy and weird because you're constantly trying to get rid of it and you can never. So that's the reason why fillers that are permanent don't work and have never really gotten to be popular. Other parts in the world, they still use it. I would, in general, highly discourage you from having permanent fillers put into your face. That's my take on it in general. And the reason is because in the permanent side, the absorbable side, there are so many highly effective materials that last a very long time.
Okay.
And you can still, and while they're expensive, they're still reasonable. So on the absorbable side, it's all the products that you can inject and your body will get rid of. So the most common of that category is things called HA fillers, hyaluronic acid fillers, HA, which really is a product that your body in and of itself makes. So it used to be like collagen, for example, right? Collagen, and the problem was like collagen from where? Horses and things of that nature. And then you'd have to get tested because anything that goes in your body that's alive, collagen, that's from another species or a person, your body will have an allergic reaction.
Back in the day, they'd give you little shots on your arm.
Correct. And that was testing you to see if you had a reaction to it. Well, when you have an HA product that your body makes and is ubiquitous across all forms, then you don't need any testing. And so that's really great. So HA products, I think, are the most effective and, in my opinion, my favorite absorbable product. There's other things that have calcium in them. In Europe, my God, there's 200 products. But in the US, I think that without a doubt, I would say 90% plus of the fillers that are being used are HA based.
Okay. So like are there like brand names we would know?
Right. I'm just going to break it down for you in an intellectual way. Okay. So of the HAs, what differentiates one HA from another is that HA is hyaluronic acid made from bacteria. Your bacteria actually make it. It comes from a bacteria, and then it becomes they make it into a gel, and then they cross-link it. The more the HA is cross-linked, the stiffer it is, the longer it lasts. The less the HA is cross-linked, the softer it is, the quicker it goes away. So like everything, you want different properties for different places.
Right.
So some HAs you want to be super thick and last a long time. And some HAs you want super thin and not that you want it to go away very quickly, but you want them to be thin. So for example, you want to put some in your cheek, really thick area. You can hide it. It will look relatively natural if it's really deep. Underneath your eyelid, like paper. You don't want the same product. You want to have variability in quality of the products.
Got it.
Then you get to manufacturers. So these are now name brands. Like Botox, we had Botox, Dysport, Xeomin. Those are just different brands of botulinum toxin A. In the HA world, I would say without a doubt, the two most popular HAs are Juvederm and Restylane.
Okay.
Juvederm is from the Allergan company, and the Restylane is from the, if I'm not mistaken, Medicis, or I'm blanking out right now where it's from. But the point being is it's literally like a Rolls Royce and a Bentley. That's the difference. In other words, the difference is they're both well manufactured. Now, in general, each one of them has their own properties, as do Rolls Royces and Bentleys. I myself am not personally a huge fan of the Juvederm products, although they are by far the most popular. Why? Because when you inject an HA, it's a sponge. And I inject, let's say, 1 cc of a filler. Well, it pulls in fluid like a sponge, and it will become larger. So it'll be 1.5 cc or 2 cc's. The problem with, in my opinion, and the way I like to do fillers, the Juvederm products tend to fill up way too much, and they're a little unpredictable, and you get a little more puffiness from them. So that's a look. Like most of the lips on Instagram, most are done with Juvederm, and that's that pouty look that people have grown to,
like
I guess,
guppy.
like a guppy. It doesn't matter though. That's just surgeon's preference and personal preference. But the key to know is
a guppy.
The key to know is that those are the products. Now, the products will go away from anywhere from 3 months to a year and a half. And there are products that will last even longer. Like there's Voluma from Juvederm that lasts a lot longer. What determines that? First of all, your biology. Literally, I can inject the same product in the same location in 2 different people. And for one person, it'll last longer than the other. Their body chews through it faster than the other. Second is location. If I put filler under your eye, it may last 2 years. If I put the same filler in your lip, it may be gone in 3 months. So the metabolism varies from person to person. Also,
are you implying my lips get a lot of action? Is that what's going on here?
I'm saying you talk a lot. No, I'm saying you talk, you eat, you kiss, you chew, it's gone. So it varies a lot in location as well. And then, of course, it varies a great deal in products. Some products last longer than others. So that's the basic 411. Now, what we really want to talk about, which I think is going to be really interesting, is where the hell can you have it injected?
Yeah.
So I'm going to do a basic analysis from literally your head to your toe.
Alrighty.
Okay. So starting in the forehead area. Some people will put some filler in the forehead. Some people have a little hollowness to their forehead. Some people have a little, especially in the glabella, that would be between your eyebrows. So you've been frowning for years. You create that little number 11 sign.
Mm-hmm.
You go get Botox. The Botox stops you from making the number 11 sign, but you have a deep furrow there that you created over 30 years. That's not going to go away with Botox. The Botox will prevent it from getting worse, but it's not going to get away the deep hollow. So that's when the filler works beautifully. So you put a little filler between your eyebrows in the furrow that should have already been Botox, so it's not moving.
Okay.
You can put filler in your brow and with a
eyebrows?
In your eyebrows, not in your eyebrow, but at the tail of your brow, and that will raise your brow up because a little bit of your brow sagging is due to loss of volume or fat around your brow. And so when you fill the tail of your brow, it actually lifts your brow a little bit.
Ooh.
You can put it in your upper eyelid fold area.
No way.
Yes.
Upper eyelid fold area? What does
So
that
listen,
do?
this is very important and very, very, very tricky to do. So some people, as they age, the upper eyelid area gets hollower and hollower. Some people, as they age, the upper eyelid area gets fuller and fuller.
I'm the medium.
If you are the fuller type, you tend to be ethnic, Latina, Asian, Slavic, etc. If you are the hollow type, you tend to be very Anglo, German, Irish, British, English, American, etc. So when you get hollow, it makes you look old, kind of like skeletonized, like an old lady whose crease is really, really high.
I've seen that.
So what you want to do is you don't want to fill the crease or the eyelid. You want to fill the brow and lower the brow so the crease that you're seeing is a little less. That needs to be done by someone who knows what the hell they're doing. It's very tricky, but it can be done. Then we go to under the eyes. And so under the eyes is somewhere that's really commonly done, but also very tricky. So there's the under eye hollow or the trough or the little crease that's underneath your eye. That area can be filled. Now remember, all the areas I just mentioned to you so far need to be filled with thin filler.
Okay.
You can't put thick stuff in these areas.
Thin HAs.
Yeah. Like a Restylane type of sort.
I'm paying attention.
So under the eyes you can fill. Okay?
Believe me, I'm paying attention.
Then you can shift to the cheek area. So it's called,
okay, but we're going to go to nose too.
So we're going to go to nose. So it's called the Lid Cheek Junction. So that means this junction between your eyelid and your cheek. So when you go from your eyelid, which is thin, to your cheek, which is thick, you can change products.
All right.
And the cheek is a very powerful area.
Crossing state lines.
Yes. The cheek is made up of the front and the side. And some people are very fat in the cheeks, but very narrow in the width of their face. And they need the high cheekbones. Some people have really high cheekbones and they're super hollow in the middle of their face. So creating a cheek which is three-dimensional is more than just shoving filler in the middle of your cheek and making you cheeky and chipmunky. There's an art form in sculpting a cheek that looks pretty, and everyone will present slightly different.
I'm not saying this to be a hater because he's older and God bless him and he's funny, but Billy Crystal, when he hosted the Oscars a few years back, his face looked like a full baby diaper. It just looked like this white lumpy thing.
Wouldn't surprise me if he had a ton of filler put in before the event.
Yeah.
But that just goes again, all these celebrities, you'd assume that since they have money and they have access, they'd have the best work done, and so many of them have shitty work done. So then we're going to shift to the nasolabial fold. So listen carefully. This is one of the first places that the FDA gave indications to fill, which is the line between the corner of your nose to the corner of your mouth, that deep trough. I haven't filled a nasolabial fold in I don't know how many years.
Really? Why?
Because it makes you look weird. It's not an area that needs to be filled unless it's super deep. The reason being is if you go look at your kid, if you go look at a child, even a child has a nasolabial fold. What happens is that as your cheeks loses volume and your cheeks become hollow and you age, you create a deeper nasolabial fold. So what's the treatment? Fill the cheeks. When you fill the cheeks, the nasolabial fold becomes less. And a huge error is to walk in and get your nasolabial folds filled and leave your cheeks alone, and you start looking weird in the front. So that's a super big trick of mine, and I don't really do much nasolabial folds, more cheek filling.
Okay.
Now we're going to full circle back to the nose. So
Yeah.
the nose is a big favorite area of mine. It's called a liquid rhinoplasty.
You're a genius at
And
this.
because I do a ton of rhinoplasty, I get a lot of people who come in who need very minor work, or they need their nose has been done 4 times and they want a rhinoplasty, and there's just no way I'll do it. So who's a good candidate for a liquid rhinoplasty? And what the hell is it? You're adding to the nose to make it look better. You're not adding to the nose to make it look smaller. So rhinoplasty people automatically assume is making a big nose smaller. Not necessarily. You have a nose that has a little bit of a hump. I can't make the hump go away with filler, but I can fill in front of the hump and make the hump look straight. That's one of the most...
I like the symmetry. I see the pictures where you take people with crooked noses and straighten them out.
So number one indication is you have a small hump. Like me, I'd be a perfect example. And I fill the top area, which is called the radix, and that makes the nose straight. Second indication is my nose is crooked when you're looking straight at me, and one side goes to the other. It curves a little to the left or the right. I fill the other side, and the nose looks straight. Another indication is my nose is a little not refined, and I can put a tiny amount of filler in the tip, which will make your nose a little more refined and a little more rotated. Another one is that the sides of my nose look a little pinched, and I can fill it in. So if you notice, I'm adding in all those situations. So a filler in the nose, a liquid rhino, can only be done if what you need is about adding. If you need to remove things, well, then you need a rhinoplasty.
Correct.
Okay. So then we shift to the lips. So the lips, you can fill the philtral columns. Those are these 2 lines that go from your nose to your lip. Fill your philtral columns. Yeah. Some people have really defined philtral columns, and it's considered very attractive. As you get older, you lose the philtral columns, which makes your upper lip look flat. So that's a really nice little touch, and it's very subtle but very powerful. The lips themselves, everybody knows Instagram. Their assumption is I refer to it as the buffet mentality. I'm going to the buffet, so I have to overeat. So the idea is I have small lips, so I have to have them ginormous. The worst thing you could ever do. And the thing about lips that's interesting is that like when you're 19 or 20 or 25, you can fill them and you look like a duck, and maybe arguably it still looks okay because you're so young. But when you're 35 and your lips look like a duck, you look ridiculous. When you're 52, they assume it's all or none. So a lot of women come in for filler, and I just suggest this, that, the other, and I say, hey, what about your lips? No, I don't want to look like a duck. You don't have to look like a dick. You just need to put a little less.
You said like a dick.
You can look like a dick duck.
Is that a Freudian slip? Because people really do look goofy when they go.
They look like dickheads.
Man, I love this show.
So
I think we should take a break because, like,
all right, I think that's good. We'll take a break. I'll finish the airs, and then I got to tell you the risks, as you know me.
But we got to do jawline too, and maybe neck and ear. We haven't got. Yeah, we
nipples.
got.
We got the belly button. Come on now.
Come on, don't leave it out. Thank you for listening to Plastic Surgery Uncensored with Dr. Roddy Raban and me, Monique Marvez. And we're back with another segment of Plastic Surgery Uncensored with Dr. Roddy Raban, board certified plastic surgeon. We're today right here in Beverly Hills, and his co-host Monique Marvez, and we're doing a deep dive on fillers. Something fascinating to me is I think right now I need them. But enough about me. Let's get to the show.
So we left off with me telling you the areas. We just finished with the nose. We finished with the lips.
No, we're not done with the lips because you were saying it's not a sum zero game. It's not an all or nothing. There's some subtle. Dare I say subtle lip fill?
Yeah.
Did that even go together?
Yeah. Well, filling in general. So we're just talking about the absolute. The absolute. We're just talking about where can be filled.
Okay.
The artistry of filling is about the subtlety of how much you need where for it to look good. And the reason why overwhelming fillers have gotten a bad rap, because the problem is people are taking it as an all or none phenomenon. Either I'm going to go natural, the hell with this filler shit, it looks terrible, or I'm going to look done up and look really like over glammed out. The truth of the matter is filler is very much like salt. Almost all recipes for food require salt. The question and what makes a great great chef is knowing that this recipe is a pinch while this recipe is a spoonful. And so the reality of filler is that every area with a little bit or a little more, a little less can look beautiful or look terrible. And the lip is the area that's been screwed up the most because it's like never ending. Because like I said, the buffet effect, like screw it. I don't have lips, so the hell with it. I want them big. And you look ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
So, but from the lips then goes to the area which I feel like fillers do some major difference.
Okay.
And that's the jawline.
Yes.
So as one starts to age earlier on, and I'm not talking when you're like 68 and you need a facelift. I'm talking when you're like your mid 40s to like mid to late 50s. There's a phase in which where you're like borderline, do I need a facelift, a mini lift? Can I get away with it? Whatever. And depending on your anatomy, you might be able to get away with using filler to help augment or enhance your jawline. Because the first thing that's going to happen to you when you start to notice your jawline disappear is, number one, you're going to develop a jowl.
Check.
Number two, you're going to develop a marionette. That's the line between the corner of your mouth and your chin.
Check.
And number three, you're going to start developing a little bit of loose skin in your neck and banding.
Producer Maria's giving us the third check there.
There is one more subtle area, which is you lose the corner of your jaw. The angle of your jaw disappears. The so-called Angelina Jolie,
Check.
Angelina Jolie is so known for her jaw because
mandible.
the mandible is so powerful.
It is.
So what can you do? You can fill in the marionette area.
Mm-hmm.
You can fill in the corner of the lip. You can fill in the entire midsection here between your chin and your jowl. That filling in of that area will then make your jowl slowly look less prominent.
Okay.
You can actually, in some cases, fill the chin. Now, you know me from other episodes. I am the master of chin implants in that I love chin implants. As a matter of fact, I'm lecturing on that next week in Vegas in a cadaver course. But and I'm a huge fan of actual chin augmentation with implants because there's nothing like it. But in some instances, you could put a little bit of filler in the chin itself to help create the jawline. Mm-hmm. And the last area, which is often not appreciated, is putting filler in the corner of the jaw, in the angle of the jaw, at the mandible. And that creates a homogeneous line from the corner of your jaw to your chin. So if you look at your pictures when you were younger, what makes a jaw look young and attractive is that the line from here to here is straight.
Like a razor.
So we're trying to get rid of all the waviness in it by filling in the areas where you have depression.
I hear the Queen song in my head playing, I want it all and I want it now.
Yeah. I want it all.
That's what I'm hearing as you're speaking.
Yes.
And you said, when we were talking before the show, you said earlobes.
So now I'm going to talk about a few areas that people don't think about. Number one, you can fill earlobes. Why would you want to
No,
fill
I could understand that.
The reason you want to fill your earlobes is as certain people, again, everything varies based on your anatomy, but certain people as they age, their earlobes deflate and become shallow and hollow. So in addition to sometimes doing an earlobe reduction when your earlobes get too large, you can actually fill earlobes with filler, hence making them a little bit more rigid and filled so that your earrings will sit better and they look more youthful. So it does work and it works very well, and that's definitely available. Another area you can fill is the top of your hands. The top of your hands you can fill because one thing you'll notice is as some people's skin thins out over their hands, they start to get skeletonized and you can see the veins and the tendons. And you could put filler in between near your knuckles in those areas, and it works incredibly well. And your hand looks more youthful and smooth and it doesn't look so aged.
Supple, yes.
Another area, the nipples.
Yeah.
What the
Yeah.
The nipples, because while some women have very prominent nipples and hate the prominence of their nipples, there are another subset of women who have very flat to almost no nipple projection. And there is, much like every other organ or anatomical area, there's a sort of defined set of beauty. And a woman often likes to have a little bit of nipple projection because it's considered attractive. And so you can put filler in the base of the nipple.
In the brown part.
That's the areola. The nipple itself, the part that you would breastfeed from.
Oh, that part.
You can put
People want that to stick out on purpose?
Yes. That would be coming from a person who has prominent nipples. You just gave yourself away.
Oh man, you turned the air conditioner down 2 degrees. It's party hats.
Yeah. So that tells. I mean, right there, you understand. So
Okay.
for every yin, there's a yang. So some people want some prominence, a little bit, as opposed to completely flat like a man.
Right.
So that's something. And then I've done filler in some other interesting areas around when once had a few kids or lost some weight, they start to develop a little bit of laxity around the belly button. It's almost like a moat effect. Now, I'm not talking about the whole abdomen. My whole abdomen is loose. That's a whole
I know
tummy
what
tuck.
you
Nothing.
mean.
I'm just talking about right around the belly button. You can fill around the belly button, building up a little bit of turgor and base around it so the belly button doesn't look like it sinks in.
Give it a little ridge.
A little support.
Goes from lake to volcano.
Got it.
Yeah.
And then one of the last areas that people are doing now more and more and more is actually injecting their butts with filler. Now,
Oh, I thought you were going to go vagine. I'm like, please
actually-
don't go vagine.
we can go back to vagine. We'll get to that. Thank you for bringing that up. So we'll go. I segue. It is not the
I
last place.
so enjoy this
So
show.
you can inject the buttock. The thing is, the reason why buttock, you say, of course you can inject your buttock. We're putting fat in it. The reason why fillers never took off is because it's not cost effective. The butt is a very large and anatomical area. It needs a lot of volume to make a small difference. And that the cost of fillers, it's not very cost effective. But there are things like Sculptra, which has become the new. Sculptra is not a permanent, but a super long lasting biologic filler. It's a filler that you mix, you inject, and it actually stimulates collagen and it grows.
I've heard about this.
Right. And so Sculptra, which I don't use a lot of it because I just tend to not like it. It's not good or bad. You just need to know how to use it very carefully because it expands and it's got its own life, its own. But in the buttock, it's actually turned out to be quite effective. It is expensive.
I hear that Queen song again.
Yeah, it's expensive, but it does work. And I think there's a lot of people doing it. The same risks will apply as you did with any other injection in the butt. So now back to the vagine. So you can inject certain areas. You can inject the G-spot.
I am all ears. No.
You can.
You'd have to find it first.
Well, that's between you and your doctor. You can find the G-spot. You can inject the G-spot. There are people who do it. I do not do G-spot injections, but it is a known concept. The idea is that the area gets volumized, which then creates more friction when you are having intercourse. So it's supposed to enhance the G-spot. Your labia, as you get older, your outer labia, not your inner labia, which is thin, but your outer labia, which if you look at your, youthful labia at the age of 25, 30 versus older labia at 65, it involutes, it loses volume and becomes thinner. You can fill the outer labia with volume from a filler.
Wow.
Yep, you can.
I've got that to look forward to.
Yeah, so there you have it.
I don't hear the Queen song playing on that one just
Right.
yet.
So that is very true. You can do that area. And then the reality is if you, depending on who you are and how
I have
creative.
to ask, have you ever injected a vagine?
I haven't. I have done fat transfer to the vagine when I was doing a surgical case. And I do inject fat occasionally when I'm doing a mommy makeover or
I
something.
bet that'd be nice.
Another reason why you want some fat in your labia is for padding and cushion.
Sure.
Because it can be, for some people who lose a lot of volume in their vaginal region, it can be uncomfortable. So it's a little bit of padding. Okay. So all that's being said and done. The rest of it is up to your imagination. Basically, any place that's hollow can be filled. So now we have to talk about the last part,
Okay.
the risks. And I want to talk about not the usual
Can
risks.
you do them real fast like the car dealership so
All
I
right,
don't get depressed?
No. The risks, what I want to talk about, are not the usual bleeding, bruising,
The usual suspects.
infections. I want to talk about catastrophic errors. The
Oh,
reason I want
boy.
to talk about catastrophic complications is because fillers are being discussed in a very sort of
Casual.
casual and cavalier way. Like, oh, I just go to the spa and I just get it done.
On my lunch hour.
People don't realize that it's a needle, it's a procedure, there's arteries, there's veins, and there's nerves. And while we talk about them and we laugh and we chuckle, things can go terribly, terribly wrong, and I want to talk about them. So one major risk is blindness.
Wow.
Blind. You go blind. You go get your filler. You're a normal person. You walk into your place. You leave. You're blind.
How does that happen?
So when you're getting injected in the face and certain areas are greater risk than others, you're pushing filler into that space. If, unbeknownst to your injector, they're pushing the filler into an artery, because you don't know where the hell the artery is, that artery, when you put pressure, the artery, instead of going forward, will go backward, and it will go to the source, and it will go into, and it will go back, and then there's an artery that goes to the eye, and that filler will actually go down the wrong path, and it will cause a thrombosis, which is a blockage of the artery that goes to the eye. And there are many examples and case studies of people who got blind during filler. So what are the areas that you need to be careful for? Around the eye, obviously, which is the forehead here, which I talked about, the glabella between your eyebrows.
Right.
The nose.
Mm-hmm.
And around the nasal region and around the eyes. All those areas, when the person injects, if they put a lot of pressure, they don't check to see if they're in an artery, and they force very hard, that's when it occurs. So what are the things to get around it? For example, you know that whenever possible, I inject with a cannula. A cannula is a long instrument that's like a
tiny straw.
Like a tiny straw, where it's blunt, meaning it's not sharp, so you can't poke any holes in things. You have to actually create a hole from which it needs to go into. And the filler comes out of the side of it. Whereas a needle is sharp, it can penetrate a vessel, and the hole is at the end of it. So you can actually put a needle in an artery unknowingly and fill it. With a cannula, there's no such reported cases. So one way is cannula. The next is that your surgeon should be at your surgeon. These are being done by whoever.
Oh, no, I see it on Groupon all the time at just med spas.
Yeah. So the person injecting you needs to aspirate, means they need to put the needle in and pull back to make sure they're not in an artery. And last, they need to inject very gently so they're not pushing too much pressure. So one major risk, blindness. The next major risk is necrosis. Necrosis is fancy for skin tissue dead. Gangrene. What gangrene? Like people see photos of toes that are dead. Like when we do breast lifts and we say the nipple can die, we're talking skin just dies. And if you Google filler necrosis, you're going to see some photos and it'll blow your mind away. And what that means is that people inject filler either directly into an artery again, or with so much pressure in an area that the skin there doesn't survive. Common areas are the nose, and you can lose a portion of your nose. People have lost a nostril, lost the tip of their nose.
Wow.
You can lose or thrombose the upper lip area. So you have to be super careful. Anybody who does filler should have a substance. That's why I like reversible filler. Reason why I like reversible filler that's an HA is, yes, it will go away within 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 12 months. But in the rare case you have a catastrophic event, you can run into the refrigerator, get an enzyme out. That enzyme can then be injected into the area where the filler was injected, and it will help melt the filler away. So aside from undoing, I see people all day long for fillers, and they're coming in and they got like weird lips and terrible things. We undo that filler. Aside from giving them that benefit, in the rare instances that you're getting one of these two catastrophic events, you might be able to reverse it if you get to it. You might salvage it. So I don't like to inject anything that's permanent, because God forbid something terrible goes on, you own it forever. If you inject your lips with filler and you hate it, you own it. If it goes in the wrong artery, you own it. So yes, you can get bruising and blah, 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 blah. But blindness and necrosis are not super rare. They're rare, but definitely can happen. So really, really do your homework. I don't think saving a little money to go to Groupon or the spa. No. I don't think you should do what's called the Botox.
Now that I've been hanging out with you, that when people say, "Oh, we're having a Botox party," like I don't even think those two words should go together.
You just listen. It's just not worth it.
No.
Go somewhere where someone is well trained. They're reputable. They open up the products in front of you. You know, you go in and all of a sudden a syringe comes out of nowhere and you don't know what product is being injected. Don't be that person when you come in and I say, "Have you had filler?" And you're like, "Yeah." And like, "Okay, what filler?" And you scratch your head like, "I don't know." You want to tell me that someone stuck a needle in your face and injected you with something and you don't never ask to see what it was,
It's been a long time wrestling.
right. So at any rate, just be smart, be savvy, and this is what you need to know about filler.
All right, I think that we have heard everything on this episode of Plastic Surgery Uncensored about fillers with your host, Dr. Roddy Raban, and me, Monique Marvez. Thanks for tuning in.